Britain collected 250 years of free labor from Jamaica. Then when slavery ended, Britain made Jamaica pay for it. Not the enslaved. Not the families who lost generations to the plantation. Britain made the victims of slavery compensate the people who owned them. And that debt followed Jamaica for 182 years. This is the story they never put in the history books. Jamaica was not a poor island. The land was fertile. The climate was perfect. The soil produced some of the most valuable crops on earth. Sugar, coffee, rum, indigo, cotton. By the late 1700s, Jamaica was the single most profitable colony in the entire British Empire. More valuable than Canada. More valuable than India at that point in history. One small Caribbean island was generating more wealth than entire continents. But walk through any Jamaican village in that same era, and you would find no schools, no hospitals, no roads connecting communities, no running water. Because every single dollar that left Jamaican soil went directly to Britain. The people who built that wealth with their bodies lived in wooden shacks and died without names in official records. In 1833, Britain announced the abolition of slavery. The world called it progress, called it justice, called it the right side of history. What they did not announce was what happened next. The British government paid out £20 million in compensation for the end of slavery. £20 million, the equivalent of $17 billion today. Every single penny went to the slave owners. Not £1 reached the people who had been enslaved. Not one shilling, not one penny. And to fund that compensation payment, Britain took out a massive government loan. That loan was charged to the British taxpayer. British taxpayers, including the descendants of enslaved people living in Britain, were still repaying that loan in 2015. 2015. Your grandparents' generation was still paying Britain's debt to slave owners. But here is what broke Jamaica before it even had a chance to stand. When slavery ended, the British did not free the enslaved and walk away. They introduced something called the apprenticeship system. The formerly enslaved were legally required to continue working for their former owners for free for 6 more years to help the plantation owners transition. 6 years of additional unpaid labor after abolition. And when that ended, the British colonial government structured land ownership so that formerly enslaved Jamaicans could not access fertile land without paying prices deliberately set beyond their reach. They were free, but the system made sure they stayed poor. Then came independence. August the 6th, 1962. Jamaica raised its own flag for the first time. Black, gold, green. The crowds in Kingston that day believed everything was about to change. What they did not know was what their new government had just inherited. Decades of colonial infrastructure designed to extract wealth outward, not build it inward. No industrial base. No manufacturing sector. No financial institutions built for Jamaican benefit. Just debt. In a global economy where the rules had been written by the same people who had owned the plantations. Now stop. Does your country have natural resources? Oil, gold, fertile land, minerals, timber, cocoa? Because if your answer is yes, look at your roads. Look at your hospital. Look at what your children inherit. Because the system Jamaica walked into in 1962 is the same system most of your countries walked into at independence. The borders changed. The flags changed. The faces in the government buildings changed. The flow of wealth did not. By the 1970s, Jamaica was drowning. The bauxite that built aluminium for the entire Western world was being pulled from Jamaican soil at industrial scale. The profits left with the foreign companies. The Jamaican government turned to the International Monetary Fund for help. The IMF arrived with conditions. Cut public spending. Reduce the civil service. Devalue the currency. Remove subsidies on food and basic goods. In other words, make the poorest people on the island pay for a debt crisis caused by a system designed against them from the beginning. Food prices spiked overnight. Schools lost funding. Hospitals ran out of basic supplies. Unemployment exploded. And an entire generation of young Jamaicans looked at the island Britain had left behind and made a decision. They left. By the 1970s and 1980s, hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans had relocated to Britain, the United States, and Canada. They built British hospitals. They drove British buses. They staffed British schools. Some of them arrived to find signs on boarding house windows that read, "No blacks, no Irish, no dogs." They had left an island stripped by Britain and arrived in Britain to be told they did not belong. The very nation that had taken everything from their homeland did not consider them welcome in it. In 2015, a team of researchers at University College London published a project called Legacies of British Slave Ownership. They identified every slave owner who received British government compensation in 1833. The names included members of Parliament, Church of England bishops, the ancestors of prominent British politicians and media figures alive today. Some of those descendants have given public interviews. Not one has returned a single pound. The British government has repeatedly refused to pay reparations to Jamaica or any other Caribbean nation. In 2015, then Prime Minister David Cameron visited Jamaica. He told Jamaicans it was time to move on from slavery. He said Britain should not be made to feel guilty. He did not mention the £20 million paid to slave owners. He did not mention the loan British taxpayers were still repaying that same year. He announced a prison building project instead. Today, Jamaica carries a national debt that consumes more than half of government revenue in interest payments alone. Half. Every school, every hospital, every road, every public service. All of it funded from what remains after the debt is serviced. A debt built on the foundation of 250 years of extracted wealth that was never returned. The land is still fertile. The people are still working. The wealth is still leaving. And nobody has been charged. Nobody has repaid. Nobody has stood in a court and answered for what was taken. The families who received that 1833 compensation are still wealthy today. The families who were enslaved are still waiting. This is not ancient history. This is now. This is the world your children are inheriting. Now I need you to do something. If this video made something shift in you, share it right now. Not tomorrow. Right now. Someone in your circle needs to hear this today, and they will never find it on their own. One share from you puts this in front of thousands of people who have been kept in the dark about where the wealth of their world actually went. Drop a comment below and tell me two things. Where are you watching from? Tell me your country. I want to know which nations are paying attention to these stories. And what hidden truth do you want us to expose next? Which stolen wealth? Which covered atrocity? Which government? Which corporation? Tell me below. We build this for you. If you are not yet following this page, follow right now. Facebook does not show our videos to everyone automatically. If you are not following, you will miss the next one and never know what you missed. Go to our Facebook page and leave us a review. Every single review pushes this page in front of more people who deserve to know these stories. Find us on YouTube, subscribe, and turn on notifications so nothing gets past you. Follow, share, comment, review. Because the next story we are about to expose is one your government is still actively trying to keep buried. And you do not want to be the last person to find out what it is.